is the properties across Watson, which are owned by the church, which will also be demolished for development of parking for the property. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to call Pastor Evans as my first witness. Pastor Evans, are you there?
Sure am.
Okay, Pastor Evans, you've already stated your name for the record and you've been sworn. You heard my statements here for the last couple of minutes to the board, correct?
Correct.
Did I accurately state everything with regard to the property and your intention to develop this property for affordable housing?
You certainly did.
Okay. And can you confirm that you do see a need for senior affordable housing in Bristol and in this neighborhood?
Most definitely.
And you see this as being something that will be accessory to and complementary to your church and the various ministries that you're performing there, correct?
That, as well as helping the community.
Which is part of,
I see it as a,
which is part of your mission with the church, is to be a positive force in the community, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And how did you become involved with Mr. Morgan and BCM?
Well, I got involved with Mr. Morgan after my friend, Pastor Willis Brown, the pastor of the Mount Airy Baptist Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was working with Mr. Morgan with Gala, which is a independent living facility as well, which is a very gorgeous facility. And they had been working for 7 years on the project because I had been trying to find some way to be able to bring some type of free clinic, but I couldn't do it. And he introduced me to Mr. Morgan. And I invited Mr. Morgan out to Bristol to look at our property to see if he's could come up with some type of solution to be able to do something similar to what he did in Mount Airy. And after a few times looking at the property and blue sky as far as what we probably could do, this is what we came up with.
Okay. Now, turning to specifically to your church, how many members or families are in your congregation currently?
Currently, members, probably 150, probably active, depending on the Sunday, but yeah.
Okay, so 150 active members.
Yes.
And you hold services every Sunday at 11:15, correct?
Every Sunday.
And do you have any supplemental services on any other Sundays?
There's about 4 during the year at 3:30 for like Deacon's anniversary, Usher's anniversary, youth anniversary.
Okay, so four other services other than your weekly service then, correct?
Yes.
And how many attendees do you typically get at those services?
All total, maybe about 250.
Okay, and on a weekly basis, do you also distribute food 3 days a week?
We typically, yes, and we typically serve 25,000 during the year.
Over the course of the year.
Yes.
But that's on 3 days per week, correct?
Yes.
And you're distributing that food from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, correct?
Correct.
And do you have any other regularly scheduled weekly events or ministries at the church?
We have our No Longer Bound programs.
And when is that?
That's usually in the evening, but that's usually over in Venice Ashby, not so much on the church property itself, no.
Okay. And which evening is that?
Beg your pardon?
Which day of the week is that typically held?
That could be 3-4 times a week, depending on the week and depending on what we're teaching at the time.
Okay. And is that considered basically a Bible study?
Well, we have Bible study, yes, on Wednesday nights.
Okay. All right. Now, you currently also have a daycare at the property, correct?
Correct.
And will that be, was that originally scheduled to remain as part of the project when we first filed the application?
Yes.
And have since we filed the application, have we have the plans changed to the extent that you're planning now to move that daycare to another location off of the property? Is that correct?
Yes, because we want to use the property that the current daycare, which used to be the church, the former church, until we built the new sanctuary.
Okay,
Uh,
so that daycare will be leaving the site then?
yes, that's the
Okay.
building you kept
Now,
saying
does the
that
church,
it was being demolished.
okay. Does the church have any staff?
Staff
Any
or the
staff?
daycare? You're talking the church or the daycare
No,
itself?
just the church.
The church, our staff are those who are volunteers, but
Okay,
they don't work at the church.
okay. So other than yourself, you're the only employee, if you will.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the daycare has some staff. How many staff?
6,
Okay, they'll be moving off site then, correct?
correct.
Now, given everything that you're currently doing, the weekly services, the evening Bible study and related ministries that you have, and any other activities, do you currently have any type of parking issues?
None at all.
Okay, so you have plenty of parking for the demand that's created by those activities.
That's correct.
Okay. Is your congregation aware of this application?
Most definitely.
And are they supportive of the application?
Yes, they are. We sent a letter of support. The
Okay,
church
there
did.
was a letter of support. And did you hold any meetings with your congregation and or with the neighborhood as part of this proposal?
We had a meeting with a presentation with the congregation. And after that meeting, we had a meeting with those who came from the community, which we invited.
Okay,
to
and
give
was
them
there
an
any
opportunity.
opposition stated by either of those groups at the meeting?
Both
meetings?
meetings were unanimous that they support the project.
And the first meeting with your congregation, were there about 40 to 50 folks in attendance there?
That's correct.
And the second meeting with the neighborhood, did you actually distribute flyers to the neighborhood advertising that
Yes,
meeting?
we did.
And how many folks did you get to attend that meeting?
I think it was around 35, maybe
Okay.
40.
Now, based on your history and your discussions with your congregation and the neighbors, do you believe the community supports your vision to have this accessory affordable housing component to your property?
As far as I know, we had no one that objected. Everybody seemed to be supportive until tonight, where I heard somebody does object. But other than that, this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, that's all that I have for the pastor.
Does anybody have any questions for the pastor? I got one. So the congregation, are they part owners of this property or no?
It's the church property.
Okay, so none of the congregation have any financial aspects of this property at all.
None at all. It's the church's property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for the pastor? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next I'll call Mr. Bruce Morgan. Bruce, you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Good evening, Bruce. You've already stated your name for the record. Could you confirm you're a principal with BCM Affordable Housing?
That's correct.
Okay, you heard my statements here this evening prior to Pastor Evans?
Oh, I did. Yes.
And did I accurately describe your involvement, your history, your background in this
You
project?
did.
Okay.
You did.
You also provided a summary of the BCM Affordable Housing experience that we've attached this evening at Exhibit 13A, correct?
I'm sorry,
did.
can you say that again?
I just asked him to confirm that he provided the document which summarized BCM's experience in the affordable housing business, and that's attached at Exhibit 13A. And he said he did.
Thank you.
Now, could you describe, Mr. Morgan, what your role will be in this project?
Sure. I will act as the day-to-day developer. So in effect, I would be the quarterback of the project. I would be the go-to person. So if there was an issue from the municipality, from the church, you would come to me and I would endeavor to get you an answer to your question, your problem, your issue. I will also oversee directly and manage the architects, the engineers, throughout the approval process. Ingerman, who is my partner, has a construction company. Ingerman Construction will be building this project. I will, in effect, oversee the construction. When the building is built and complete, Ingerman Management Company will manage the project, and I'll oversee the lease up and then the subsequent management of this project. It's to be noted that Ingerman is one of the largest affordable housing developers in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland, the 4 states that they operate in. They have developed over $1.5 billion of affordable housing over the last 25 years in those 4 states, and they're very active in Pennsylvania right now.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to scroll down, Mr. Morgan, to our Exhibit 7. I get there. Okay. This is our Exhibit 7. This is what we're proposing, correct?
That's the front elevation along along Watson Avenue.
Okay, and this will contain 56 affordable housing units for seniors, correct?
Correct.
Now, could you just confirm for the record that you also have done this type of project in conjunction with other religious organizations?
I have. It's kind of interesting how life turns out. I 15 years ago was introduced to a pastor in South Jersey who came to me and said, "Bruce, I need your help. I've seen your work. I appreciate your work. You do very quality work. It looks in every way like market rate housing." He says, "I have an elderly parish, and the seniors can't find adequate places to live in the neighborhood." And what by adequate, I mean they can no longer navigate steps. They can no longer deal with turning doorknobs because they have arthritis. They need to be near their church, which for the seniors in this case, and I found that this is very common, the seniors not only go to church regularly, but they go to other activities at the church. So it's not only a religious experience, it's a communal and social experience as well. And as they get older, they want to be near their church. So in this case, Pastor Parker of the Antioch Baptist Church said, "Can you help me build a building for our seniors and the seniors of the community across the street?" We did. We acquired the property, we raised the financing, and we built what was called Antioch Manor. It was such a success, he named it after his church, the Antioch Baptist Church. He then said, "Well, we own property next to Antioch Manor. Can we do another building?" And we built Parker Hall. He named it after himself. He was so happy with this, and it equated to about 140 units of affordable senior housing. As it turns out, these pastors, they prayed together, and he introduced me to other pastors in the community. The next one being at the Pentecostal Holy Church in Chester, Pennsylvania. We built there. We built a beautiful, beautiful building. You can see it on my website, bcmah.com. Pentecostal Square, which is about 15 years old as well at this point. I then met the pastor at the St. Maron Catholic Church in South Philadelphia, 1 block off of the Italian Market, built 60 some units down there with the Catholic Church. I then met Pastor Brown in Mount Airy that Pastor Evans was referring to, Willis Brown at the Mount Airy Baptist Church. He acquired property across the street from his church, and we built a project called Gala, Golden Age Living Accommodations, a 50-unit project directly across the street from his church. Through that relationship, I met Pastor Evans, which led me to Bristol. all of these communities are really are real high points of the community. Some of these communities are modest income, and some of them have middle to upper income, but they all have the same situation. They have really established churches which are very active in the community. And the pastors are role models of the community, and they recognize a deficiency where there's just no place for the seniors of their church to live. So they come to me to help find a way to build affordable senior housing in the community, which keeps the seniors in the community who are upstanding members of the community, where otherwise they would leave.
Okay, that's great. So all of these other developments that you've been involved with, they've all been successful, it sounds like, correct?
They're all entirely overly successful. They lease up immediately, they remain leased up, and the seniors are uniformly very happy. What we look to do in all of our communities, whether it be a past, a present, or a future community, is we make these buildings look like market rate, upper income housing. But we add a lot of features that most apartment complexes don't have, because the typical apartment complex, especially in this area of Bucks County. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. In this part of Bucks County, is their garden apartments, which are walk-ups. They're 2 or 3 stories. They're typically have been built 30 or 40 years ago. They have not been updated. The seniors have to navigate with steps, and they're expensive, and they're old. They're not very energy efficient, and there's families living there. What we provide for the seniors is we provide a senior living experience, which is very active. First, all of the units have grab bars in the bathrooms. Second, they have nurses' call systems, which are basically pendants that we give to all of our seniors. So if the senior should fall down, they press a button and it goes to a call station, and emergency vehicles come to the rescue. And it works 24 hours a day. So there's always someone on the lookout for the residents of the building. There's a full appliance package in our properties, and now I'll talk to Bristol specifically here. We have a full appliance package, which includes a garbage disposal, a dishwasher, a full-size washer and dryer. We're building to an energy efficient standard called Passive Home, which exceeds the Model Energy Code. It's amazingly energy efficient. You can see from this elevation that all of the units above the first floor have balconies on all of the units. When you go outside of the apartments themselves and into the hallways, there's grab bars in the hallways so seniors can navigate the hallways. There's 2 elevators in all the buildings. There's a furnished community room with a warming kitchen, and we really encourage our seniors to take advantage of that community room. It's available to them at no charge. It's beautifully furnished like a hotel, and they have active parties for themselves and their families in the community room. There's also big television sets in there. We'll have a gym in this building for the seniors to use at no charge. There's an arts and crafts room. There's a rooftop deck and a small patio off of the community room. Additionally, and what makes this building really unique is we've reached out to Lower Bucks Hospital and also the other group. It's called B-CHIP, and I am looking for my notes. Bucks County Health Improvement Partnership. We'll have a medical suite in this building, which will provide health and wellness services, flu shots, healthy eating, etc., to the seniors at no charge via Lower Bucks County Hospital and Bucks County Health Improvement. And what they can't do on the site, the church, through a social services fund that we've put together, will also have van service to and from the hospitals and to and from Bucks County Health Improvement Partnerships off-site locations. So on a regularly scheduled basis, the seniors will go there for programs as well. We'll also provide seniors with transportation services to grocery stores, to the mall, to doctor's offices that are outside of those 2 locations on a regularly scheduled basis at no cost to the seniors.
Okay, that's great. That's very comprehensive. Now, based on your experience, you heard me characterize this earlier as a use that's really becoming, in your experience, accessory to the church use. Is that an accurate characterization, that it's
It is.
complementary to and accessory to the church use?
It is. In every one of these cases, which I just mentioned, it's very much an accessory to the church. But you don't have to be a member of the church to live in this building. It's really, we fully anticipate getting church parishioners to live here, but it's also open to the public outside of the church.
Okay, great. Now, as far as the financing, will this be built under the federal low-income housing tax credit program?
It will.
And could you just briefly describe, it's a really complex program, just briefly describe the sort of the key points, the oversight by PHFA and some of those other key characteristics of that program?
Sure. PHFA stands for Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, which is an agency in Harrisburg, which distributes, monitors, and oversees the tax credit itself. So once a year, and in this case, on March 5th, they hold an RFP, request for proposal, which is due for developers who are seeking tax credits. The tax credit, which we will get, we will sell to an investor, typically a large bank like Wells Fargo, who will invest in a project like this. That will provide about 75% of the project's financing. Wells Fargo will also provide a construction loan for a project like this. We're working with Bucks County Housing and Community Development. We're looking for them to provide about $800,000 of ancillary funding. And our conversations with them have been going on for about the last 2 months, and they are very supportive of this project. And it looks very positive that they will also be contributing funding for this project.
Okay, and if this project is approved by PHFA, would there be a deed restriction on the property, limiting it to seniors and limiting it to affordable housing?
There will. At the time of the construction loan closing, we will have a deed restriction which will be recorded. So before we actually put a shovel into the ground, we have to have this deed restriction recorded. And what it will say is, amongst other things, it will set out the income limits for this project. There's going to be 9 market rate units of the 56, and the remaining 47 units will be for residents at 60% of Bucks County median income or lower. So all of the residents who move in will have to be certified to meet the income requirements. It will also remain affordable for 45 years, and you have to be 55 years of age or older to move into the project. Grandchildren cannot move in with their grandparents. They can obviously come and visit. They can spend the night, but there's very strict regulations about how long grandchildren and children itself can stay in the project. And we are very, very diligent in our management efforts that we just will not allow children to live in this building. This building is for seniors and for people 55 years of age and older. And PHFA oversees this very diligently.
That's an ongoing oversight, correct? Once it's up and running, they
For the next 45
every year.
years.
For the next
For the
45
next-
years. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. So have you met with I indicated we met with the township council on a couple of occasions. Is that correct?
We did. So what
And-
we did is, I can give you some details.
Sure. That's what I was hoping you would do.
In August, I started my conversations with the pastor in July. And I said to him, Pastor, I think we can work this out and put a building that would wrap around your church. We would have to create some parking and some other things. But I said, this is a very expensive endeavor. And we really are very judicious in our efforts in going after projects like this. So I said, the first thing we should really do is reach out to the township council and let's kind of take a temperature check from the township council. So the pastor set up an informal meeting with Council President Bowen. And what Council President Bowen said was, hey, I think this is a great deal. We really have a lot of seniors who need better places to live. We like to keep them in the community. We recognize that the church has been doing great things in the community for a very long time. So this is what I recommend, Bruce. He says, you really need to reach out to the community and let them know about this project. And provided that the community supports the project, we would support the project. So what we did in August is we had our first meeting with the church's parishioners that Pastor Evans spoke about a moment ago. We had about 45 people that were there. Some of those parishioners actually live in the surrounding community and some live afar. But of those 45 people, they asked questions for about 2 hours after my presentation. And then we asked them, we said, who's for, who's against? And it was overwhelming. There was not one objector. All of the 45 said they supported it. Then the pastor went door to door with folks in the church, handing out flyers for the second meeting, which took place in October. There was about 35 people who came to that meeting, and also Congressman Fitzpatrick came to the meeting as well. We then asked, we made the presentation. They asked a lot of questions again, well over an hour. And at the conclusion of that meeting, we then asked them, do you support the project or do you object to the project? And once again, 100% of the people who were at that meeting, who were neighbors, said that they support the project. We also received a letter, which we've given to you, Bill, in support of the project from the parishioners of the church and from Congressman Fitzpatrick's office. Additionally, we went to, as you pointed out a moment ago, we went to Township Council on 2 different occasions with these plans. The first time, they were informal presentations that we did via Zoom. The first time we went, they really liked the plans, they liked the idea of the project, but they said, we really would advocate that you try and find some more parking. So at that point, we then took the daycare center, which is across on Watson, out of the project, and we added more parking spaces to the project. And when we went back to council, I think 3 weeks ago, for the second Zoom meeting, it was overwhelming. The township council said that they support the project, and they supported, it's on the record. If you were to pull the transcript of the council meeting, you will hear that they supported the project as well, and they wished us luck with the zoning board.
Okay, great. That's now as far as the number of units. Or actually, let me step back a second before I get to that. Well, actually, let's stick with that. The number of units, we're looking at 56 units, correct?
Yes.
And why are we doing 56 units? Is that a necessary number for this to be a viable project?
Well, the typical project, the typical affordable housing project in the state of Pennsylvania is typically between 45 to 50 units if you're in Philadelphia, because the construction costs are so high, you just can't afford to build any more than that. There's a limit on how many tax credits you can get, $1,250,000. And so because of that limit, and the limit is whether you're in Philadelphia or if you're in some faraway county in the northern part of the state, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. So you typically can build 40 to 45 units in Philadelphia because it's so expensive, and you can build more if you're in a faraway county. The problem with Bucks County is it's not as expensive as Philadelphia, but it's not cheap. And there's just a lot of expenses. So on the high end, in the middle of nowhere, you might be able to build 70, and the low end, you can build 40. 56 is a very typical number. And the problem is if I build 20 units or I build 100 units, my cost of my attorneys, my engineers, my architects are always going to be the same. So in order to spread those fixed costs, we try to get as many units as possible. So 56 is a very typical number of units in a transaction such as this.
And does that also allow for economies of scale in managing and operating the building when it's
Correct.
completed? Okay.
Correct, it does.
Okay. So, essentially, we're looking for a number of variances here. It's your position that those variances are sort of the minimum that are necessary for us to build this as a viable project, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as far as parking, you have experience with senior housing. What's the typical parking need, the actual need that's generated by a senior building like this?
So seniors that live in buildings like this, and I have a lot of experience with this, are looking to downscale their life. They're looking to move out of houses and because they can't afford to pay the taxes, which typically have gone up for years and years, to fund the schools. They're no longer in the school system. So they're looking to reduce the size of their housing. They're looking to reduce their expenses. And for a lot of times, the majority of the times, they're also looking to eliminate their automobiles. That's one of the main reasons why we're providing transportation services for this community via the church. So our typical need for parking from the senior population is about 20% of the units. So for a project like this with 56 units, we would look for about 12 spaces for the seniors themselves.
Okay. And is that based on the other 4 properties that you referenced a little while ago, and experience that you've had on other projects with Ingram, or that Ingerman has had?
That's correct. The 4 properties I talked to you about previously were church-related developments. I have built a number of senior developments that were not affiliated with a church, but had very similar components. They had a transportation component, they had a healthcare component, etc. They were both in urban and suburban locations. And across the board, we're finding that that is the case.
Okay. Just a few final questions here. So based on your experience as an affordable housing developer, is this an appropriate location and property configuration for a 56-unit affordable housing senior development?
Yes, I think it is. First, the church is a really strong component of this community, and the church will add support to this building. And second, we had our market study done, and the market study came back and said there's a really strong need for affordable senior housing in this part of Bucks County, really in all of Bucks County, but I'm really only speaking to the eastern section of Bucks County. They said that the typical project is a garden apartment. It's not set up for seniors. It has stairs. It doesn't have elevators. It's 40 plus or minus years old. And that when the market study looked at our proposed rents, which are really in the $760 to $1,000 a month range, we had a price advantage of about $550 to $600 a month between what we're proposing here and what is available in the market, which is, in my mind, inferior. So when I met with Pastor Evans, when we spoke to Councilman Bowen, what they both told me was, we have a real need for affordable senior housing. So the market study really bared it out. And I think that this location really solves a lot of problems for the senior population of Bucks County and Bristol.
Okay. And do you believe this proposal is compatible with this neighborhood?
I do. And where we put this property, behind the property is an auto repair shop, which takes up the entire rest of the block. Across on Watson, we're going to put a parking lot in and buffer it with landscaping. So the other house, that parking lot on Watson goes all the way almost to the next block. There's one house there at the end, which is owned by a parishioner of the church, and she's supportive of the project. There's really very few neighbors because we're wrapping this building around the church and pushing behind the church. There's really very few neighbors there. And we did our outreach, And when we answered the questions, we found that there was a lot, uniform support for this project. So when you take into account the feedback that we've obtained to date, I think it's a very appropriate location for this community.
Okay, and one last question. Do you anticipate that the project, if it's approved, would have any negative impacts on the neighborhood or the community?
No, when we build communities like this, because of the quality of the materials, which Mike Donovan will talk about in a moment, and because of the management company and the construction company, the development company, we find that these projects like this actually increase property values in the area. They solidify the area. And I think very important, they keep seniors who are they don't work. They're in the community all the time. They're eyes and ears on the streets. They've lived in the community typically for a very long time. We don't typically move people from far away into our buildings. They're already in the community, just underhoused. Well, these communities keep them in the community for the rest of their lives, which is a real attribute to the community which houses our properties, in this case, Bristol Township.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Morgan. That's all that I have for Mr. Morgan.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Morgan? I have a question. Mr. Morgan, you say you've done a lot of these projects. Have you ever done a project with this vast amount of variances that had to be relieved?
Every project that we do has variances. One of the big driving factors of the variances for this project is the lots are 11 individual lots. So because they were all little lots, they all required variances. It's a rare day that an affordable housing developer gets a big piece of property that everything works. This is one of the reasons why there's such a need for affordable housing, because there's a lot of hurdles that we have to go through to build projects like this. So no, this is not atypical at all.
Without having the board having to go through every variance and look at all the plans provided, are you able to point out those variances which actually affect neighbors as opposed to those which are internal to the 11 lots?
I think Mr. Donovan is, or not Mr. Donovan,
No,
Mr.
Elko.
Yeah, Mr. Elko will be working through the variances that we're requesting when we get to him.
Okay, if he could emphasize again those variances which are actually internal to the lots owned by the applicant versus those that actually have impact on neighboring properties, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Morgan? I got one more, Mr. Morgan. If say we give you relief on all these variances, is this project is fully financed and fully funded?
It's not. So once again, we've applied to Bucks County, and for the last 2 months, we've had numerous conversations with the executive director, and he is in the process of writing us a letter, from what I understand, of support for the $800,000. And then on March 5th, in a month, we'll make our tax credit application to the PHFA. In order to make the tax credit application, you need to have zoning in place prior to that. So that's why we're here now in anticipation of getting the tax credits applied for in 30 days.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you.
Okay, if nothing else, then I'll call Mr. Michael Donovan. Mike, are you there?
Yes.
I apologize. I can either have the screen up or I can have the video images. So I can't see who's on, who's not on right now, but I can see. I assume my screen is still visible. So good evening, Mr. Donovan. You have been sworn, correct?
Yes, I have.
Right. And you're an architect, as we indicated.
Yes, principal and owner of Haley Donovan for 15 years, licensed in Pennsylvania for the same amount of time. I've spoke before numerous boards, throughout Pennsylvania and been accepted as a expert witness. And the
Okay.
plans were done under my supervision.
Okay, and you provided your CV, which is, we've attached at Exhibit A13, correct? A13C, excuse me, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you have experience designing affordable housing complexes?
Yes. Me and Bruce did a great job describing the architecture, by the way, so I won't have as much to say. But me and Bruce have worked on 13 projects together, and up to about 1,000 units, and all 4 of the prior affiliated with a church I was involved in, and they were a huge success, and they sparked a lot of improvements in the surrounding community also.
Okay. Now, I have on the screen, I'm showing Exhibit 7. Was that prepared, A7, excuse me. Was that prepared by your office?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and just to the extent Mr. Morgan didn't hit something, do you want to just briefly describe
Yeah,
some of
so
the
it's-
aspects of the board?
4 stories, 43 feet tall, and it has those bays are about 12 foot wide, and they really do a great job of breaking up the scale of the building. And the attic story, that top story is set back a little bit also, which we find also helps to bring it to the residential scale. The 2 primary materials on there will be brick, which is durable, lasts forever, and pretty maintenance free. And also we have fiber cement siding, which is a much more environmentally friendly than vinyl siding, and it's durable. And Bruce mentioned Passive House, which is really it's really headed the game on energy use, and it limits so the tenants will have very small utility bills and use very little energy to heat and cool.
Now, of the 56 unit, how many one bedrooms, how many 2 bedrooms?
We have 53 1 bedrooms, and the remainder is 2 bedrooms.
Okay, and about approximate square footage of the 1 bedrooms?
The 1 bedrooms are, hold on 1 second here.
Yeah, the information I had was about 686 square feet. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. That is
And
correct.
then for the 2 bedrooms, it's approximately 1,100 square feet, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
And Mr. Morgan described some of the amenities. So let's go to,
Just real quick while you have that one up, this area here is that 2-story lobby is spectacular. It's a 2-story atrium. You come in, it does feel like a hotel lobby. It is, there's
that's right here?
Yeah, correct. So that's a 2-story space. It's with this size building. When you come in there, and it's really a wow moment when you see this lobby with furnished lobby, and there'll be a overlooking bridge, and that will lead you into the fitness and the community space.
Okay, then I see some lettering above the second story here.
Yeah, so
Part of
that will just be some pin-mounted letters. We're going for some relief on signage, and that's one of the building-mounted sign that will be backlit, raised letters, metal letters.
Okay. Anything else on this one before we go to the next?
Well, you can see the bolt-on balconies, which are, you don't have those long structures to hold them up, and they really give an outdoor space and lots of outdoor and amenities, like Bruce touched on.
Okay, now I'm going to go to Exhibit 8A, applicants 8A. If you could just describe for the board what this is.
Okay, so this is the first floor plan, and you could see how it's nestled around the a church, and there's an outdoor patio off the community space where you could pour out onto the community space and have an outdoor gathering. And the offices are fully, there's a management staff there the whole time, and there's a fitness center right off the lobby, and that medical suite to the left there is gonna, where the visiting doctors would be and provide those services. And down a little bit further to the west is arts and crafts, all the way at the end there. The other way to the left,
Oh, I see it.
right
Okay.
there, arts and crafts.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times you see these with stairs at the end of the building. These will have the stairs fairly hidden, so it's good. You're going to have lots of windows at all elevations, and there's going to be daylight in the corridors, so they don't feel long. They have lots of natural daylight even in the corridor spaces.
Okay, and then just for orientation, this frontage here to the lower part of the
Norton.
plan, that's the Norton Avenue, correct?
And then Watson is up to your right. Yep, that's Watson.
To the right, okay.
Yeah, and most of our building elevations we've been showing in the renderings have been from Watson, which
Okay,
is that you could see where that right next to the fitness is that 2-story lobby area.
okay, so that's right here.
Yeah.
Right, so that rendering we saw is basically this elevation to the right of the.
Correct.
Right. okay.
Correct.
All right, let's go to Exhibit A. And you can describe for the board what this is.
So now you could see that where it says open to below, that's the 2-story space. And then the fitness center will also have a tall space. And then it's the apartments, it's mostly apartments there. You can see the 2 elevators and just lots of windows and outdoor space. And, they're going to be big open plan. We'll see the unit plans later and I'll describe them in a little bit
Okay.
more detail.
And then Exhibit 8C.
Yeah, 3rd floor, I would maybe skip that because it's just like the 2nd floor. There's no difference there. And then this 4th floor, you could see that roof area. The building drops down in scale at that area and has a roof deck. That's the only difference between the 4th floor and 3rd.
Okay.
And then this is blowing up into an apartment. You could see the open bar concept. It's a big open great room. You walk in and it just looks. It's a spacious apartment, so you don't have to do any tricks, but it just looks open and lots of daylight, and people love living in here, and it's just it's a great place for a senior to call home.
Okay, and that's Exhibit 8E is in Edward.
Oh, and wait, one more quick thing about that is you could see all those. Oh, go down one more.
Whoops, somehow, there we go.
Yeah, you could see all the clearances for the handicap, so it makes it easy to navigate for a senior. All the clearances and that.
The clearances, you mean the
Bruce was
widths of the doorways and things like that?
Yep.
All right, then Exhibit 8.
And this is showing a 2-bedroom. You see the laundry in the unit. Again, the big open concept plan where the bar is, the kitchens open up to the living dining area, and all accessible and just spacious.
Okay, I think that's it. Let me just ask you a few additional, anything else?
Oh, no, you can move on to the other questions.
Okay, now you're familiar with the, or actually, let me just go back a second here. How will the trash be addressed?
We'll have a chute. So it'll be a chute for recycling and a chute for trash. It goes down into the building, into a dumpster, 2-yard dumpsters, and it will be held there. And on garbage day, they'll be rolled out and pickup will happen.
Okay,
So
rolled out onto Watson or onto the,
it will be onto the left
Elwood.
side, which is what was.
Bill, this is Bruce. It's on the back of the building on
Okay.
Elwood. There are no neighbors at all on that side.
Oh, I see.
Across Elwood is entirely wooded, and behind the building is the auto repair facility. So what happens is,
Don't come around.
so what happens is that there's 2 chutes, as Mike described, one for recycle, one for rubbish. They go into compactors. Our maintenance person, we will have a maintenance person on staff 40 hours a week, on call 365 days, 24 hours a day. But he will be working, or she will be working 40 hours a week. We will contract with a private hauler who will come down Elwood, and it will be coordinated with the hauler, where the maintenance person will roll the compactor out in a form of, it goes into a toter, and they roll the toter out, it goes into the truck, goes back in. So there is no trash stored outside of the building. It's always in the compactor or the toter in the building.
All right, thanks, Bruce. So we'll go back to Mike. Do you see any fire egress or other issues with this building from an architectural or building
No,
code standpoint?
we will meet and exceed all codes. It has a fully sprinkler fire suppression system. We'll have all of our egress and ingress met, and we'll work with the local officials to make sure that everyone's satisfied.
Okay. I want to turn to the signage. We have 4 signage variances that we're asking for. And the one sign we've spoken about, which is in this area to the right side of the plan above the lobby, correct?
Right, correct.
Then the other side is this monument sign, which is back on Norton in the lower right-hand corner of the plan at Exhibit 8A, correct?
Right, and the ordinance says that it within 10 feet, if it's 6 square feet or more, and it's within 10 feet of a sidewalk, and really it's just the ideal location for it. And we do have the rendering that you're originally had, the first one does kind of show it there, but it's going to be a beautiful sign. It's the materials will match the building, and it's really a beautiful sign.
Okay. So the variances we need are for this sign because it's more than 6 square feet and it's
Within
less than 10, it's within 10 feet of the sidewalk.
correct.
Okay. And is this the 10-foot line that I'm highlighting with the fingertips there?
That's approximately 10 feet. Yeah, if not exactly, it's pretty close to 10 feet.
Okay. So we're almost on that line.
Yeah.
We're just beyond that line.
Yep.
All right. And then we also need a variance because this sign is not on the principal driveway, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question. Because why?
Because the monument sign is not on the main driveway to the complex.
The answer was correct.
What was the answer, Mike?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
And then the other one is the size of the monument sign, where 12 feet is allowed. We're asking for 80 feet, 80 square feet.
Okay, and then we're also asking for a variance because we have 2 signs, this monument sign and the wall sign. And the
Correct.
ordinance only allows a freestanding sign, correct?
Correct. And this is this type of arrangement's typical, what we would typically see in our buildings. It's a monument sign and a smaller building mounted sign.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I have on the sign. Now, just a few remaining questions here. So in your opinion as an architect, is this proposal for 56 senior apartments a reasonable use based on the characteristics of this neighborhood?
Yes, I think it's going to be a real amenity to the neighborhood. What the church has been doing for that neighborhood, and it will continue to do this, like being an accessory to that, and further, have different services that the church didn't have to
Okay,
offer.
and is it appropriate in size and scale with this neighborhood?
Yes.
And in your opinion, is the senior building essentially an accessory use to the church?
Yes. Yes.
And in your opinion, are the variances that we're requesting the minimum variances that are necessary for us to construct this this proposal?
Yes, like as Bruce mentioned, I think the viability of the project, just you know, you're going to be right around there to make the project viable.
Okay. And you consider this, do you consider this to be a reasonable proposal?
Yes. Very.
And in your opinion, would the variances that we're requesting have any negative impact on the neighborhood or the community?
Not that I could think of.
That's all I have for Mr. Donovan.
Thank you very much for your time.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Donovan? In regards to the signs, Mr. Donovan, are these signs, why so large?
I think, do you think I could share my screen real quick? Would that be, because I do have a image of the sign.
Mr. Scott, is that possible?
Yeah, I think we got it figured out. If you just want to hit share your screen.
Okay. Okay, you can see that?
Yes.
Looks very familiar.
Yeah, so this is a sign here. It comes to a large area because we have this, we're going to have some landscape, so we're going to have to get up. So we're including all this area to be on the safe side. But it is a very light, you know, an airy sign. It doesn't, it's not, and in the rendering, you do kind of see it in this corner here. That's where it would be located, if you could see that right there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So the 80 square foot is a little deceiving. You know, if we're just talking about this sign here, it's 10 by 2. It'll be only 20 square feet, but you know, we do have this area where it's the raised letters up here.
Yeah.
And then we do have some of the signage right here, which we have a lot of people involved. We want to make sure everyone is getting recognized.
Is the sign lit?
It will be backlit, yes.
Okay. Is it pointing towards any residence? houses?
No. The across the street will be the parking for this project, and across the other street will be, yeah, it's just parking.
All right, anybody else from the board have any questions for Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, if I may, I apologize. This sign elevation did not get in our packet. What I propose is that we would add that, and we'll call that exhibit 7A, and we'll call it the proposed sign elevation.
Yeah, and some other.
I have hold on. I have a comment about the packet. I am missing exhibits. It's not organized. I'm going to need a complete set as solicitor, marked and indexed appropriately. And I think that's what it should have been done to begin with, given the scope of this project. You're asking for 27 variances in total. And I'd like you to put something on the record as to why any of this is a hardship, other than the fact that it's a good project that may be needed for the community and maybe makes sense in that regard. But I'm not really hearing much on hardship here. Is there something that you can, as the expert architect, put on the record that would help the board understand why they should grant 27 variances?
Mr. Elko is actually prepared to get into that analysis.
Okay, here's what I don't know, Jim, we have two other people waiting. And it
Okay,
seems like we could go on for another hour and a half here with this. Does it
Okay.
make sense to take a break with this applicant and take the other two, which seem to be relatively simple? I don't know. Or do you just want to continue? I can't talk in your ear. We're on Zoom. And I
Right.
don't think, unless Mr. Scott knows how to do a breakout room, this is
Yeah.
where we are. It's your call.
well, this is my thinking, and I don't know how, if it's possible or not, but say we continue with this application. If we get to the point where we gotta, like I said, I don't know if it's possible to do a continuance on the last two. That's might have to happen. I don't know if that's a viable thing to do at this
Mr.
point.
Chairman,
Well,
Yes.
I-
Mr. Scott.
go ahead, Tom.
if I could just, this is just speaking for the scheduling. We don't have a lot going on in March if the applicant wants to, if the applicant wanted, so far we don't, we could certainly take them first if we want to
That doesn't work with the.
go on to the next two and then come back to this one later. But I mean, obviously I can't make that determination and the applicant would have to weigh in on it. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. And
Yeah, this is this
we've
is
got
probably
two new members.
right.
And this is a fairly substantial project. And as as Bruce said, they were in front of council, but those were sketch plans. They were not much more than what we're looking at here. Not that there's anything wrong with what we're looking at, but it's a lot for the zoning hearing board to unpack and digest. And
Right.
those are
And
my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I also think it could be better organized, especially because we're on Zoom. I'd like the board members to get all the exhibits and have them organized in a way where they can actually take the time to look at the project and get a better understanding as to what's involved. It's just too much in too short amount of time. That's just my opinion as solicitor, for what that's worth.
Well, that's what I-
Understood. I
that's what I-
understood. And there is a lot here and we were pulling a lot together relatively quickly. We do have this time frame where we need to submit the PHFA application in early March. Is it possible we could do a special hearing in the next 2 weeks and conclude this if that's what the board decides they'd like to do?
That's really up to the board, but I note that you're the one that asked for the continuance last month, so that's not our sort of issue that we're now up against the deadline. We want to
Well,
do this
I
thing
understand.
right.
No,
So-
I understand. And again, we requested the continuance because we were working with council to modify the plans based on.
No, I understand. It's,
Yeah,
I just think, I think everyone needs the right amount of time to apply their brain power and give this appropriate consideration. I mean, you wouldn't want the board to deny it just because you're trying to cram it in the manner that seems to be unfolding.
No, I understand. I understand exactly what you're saying. Is it possible that we could do a follow-up sometime in the next week, following week, to do a special?
I think that's asking a lot, quite frankly. I mean, the board meets once a month. The deadline you guys have got with why this is tied to zoning, I can't guess why the state or whoever the regulator is that does this, but you're putting a lot of pressure on the zoning hearing board. For a substantial project that, with I mean, I can't speak for the board. If they feel comfortable with it, they feel comfortable with it. But we've already heard we've got somebody who objects to it. Even though you guys have said you talked to all the neighbors, we found one now that doesn't like it. And, this was supposed to be fleshed out a while ago. From what I understand, because I've been, this is the third or fourth time I've heard the presentation, and both inside the four walls of the building and on the Zoom meetings. But it's a lot. I mean, but I think at a minimum, Mr. Chairman, you put a pin in this and let the other two applicants go ahead tonight and pick this one up after those two are done tonight. So the people waiting around for that can get off the meeting.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
my
maybe,
suggestion.
yeah, maybe what we could do is give you most of the hearing next month. And that'll give us a chance to give you the floor, maybe all of it. I don't know. I'd rather see that happen. I quite frankly, my advice to the board would be to not make a decision tonight. That's just my advice as counsel, but I don't vote.
Well, yeah, see, that's what I was getting at when I asked about the amount of variances here. Like I mean, I've been on this board a long time. And I've never, ever, we've done multiple schools, large projects, but there's a lot of variances to ask for relief of. So, anybody, Colleen or Sue, what are your thoughts? Feel free to voice your opinion.
Well, how about this? Rather than drag this out, why don't we just put our hearing on hold? You go forward with the next two, and then we'll see what we can do afterwards, okay?
Okay, is everybody on the board in favor of that? Sue?
I am, if that works for everybody, but I do have a lot of questions, so I'm not sure where we would want to go from there.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna table this applicant.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned that there was a person that objected, but you didn't ask, are there any people still on the Zoom that approve?
Yeah, we will get to that. I always, at the end of the applicant's, presentation, I ask the audience, anybody would like to speak for or against the project. So we just haven't got to that point yet, Pastor.
Okay, well, why don't we just hold on? You can handle the other two cases and we'll be here, okay?
Okay, all
Thank you.
right, so at this point, we're gonna table this application, and we're gonna go to Pine View Estates LLC. Crossing
Excuse me,
Drive.
Jim,
Yeah,
I need a quick restroom break.
okay, let's, all right. Let's make a 10-minute bathroom break. Is that all right? Is that good enough?
Oh, yeah, that's plenty.
Okay, all right, 10 minutes bathroom break, and then we'll come back to Pine View Estates.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi.
My only witness is on the screen for spelling. It's Chirag, Takker, Thakker. Chirag.
Chirag. Thakker.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Chirag.
it's actually AR. So it's
Okay, I got it.
yep, it's on the screen. My first initial last name's on the screen.
Okay. And Ed,
I
you
can-
represent Pine View, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I can confirm we got the notice of mailings from Mr.
Right.
Burns' office, so no problem there.
Right. And with Ken and the board's permission, I'm happy to try to, given the hour and what you guys are still faced with, I'll try to do a offer of proof and try to move things along quickly if that suits everybody, because I think this application lends itself to that.
Fine by me. It's up to the board.
Just tell me when you want to get started and
Why don't you proceed?
okay.
Wait a
Good.
second. Hold on a second. I don't know if everybody's back yet.
Oh, okay.
In that case,
Here's Cindy's coming back.
Oh, I'm here. I don't know if you're waiting for anybody else.
Yeah, waiting for Sue at this point.
And Colleen Wolf is the NFL Network reporter.
All right, there you go. That's where I got it from, I guess.
Yep. Who used to be from Philly. Is from Philly. Yeah.
Do another minute and then we'll get started. Sue, you back yet? I don't see her yet.
You're looking for the church?
Sue Lewis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's. Ready, Sue? All right, you okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. All right,
Okay, guys, good evening. I'm Ed Murphy. I'm here tonight with my engineer, Sharak Tucker, to present to you a plan for what's listed on the application as Pineview Estates. Pineview Estates is the legal entity that owns Okna Windows, OKNA. I think many of you from the township are familiar with Okna. Okna is a window manufacturer that has a significant presence already in Bristol Township. At present, they maintain almost 220,000 square feet of manufacturing space over on Crossing Drive, and they presently employ over 230 people at that facility. What's in front of you this evening is a application that seeks some zoning relief to permit the construction of a new freestanding warehouse of 111,000 square feet to add to the existing 216,000 square feet. So when we're all done, the expectation is we will have about 320,000 square feet of new or total manufacturing space. And this new facility would increase the number of employees by about 60. So when we're all done, we're going to have close to 300 employees and over 300,000 square feet of manufacturing space in Bristol Township. This application's been in front of the township and the council, planning commission, and staff for probably 6-8 months. We probably started last summer with our initial conversations with the staff. And ultimately, at least so far, we've been in front of council a couple times, and most recently had the zoning of this property modified to permit the use we're proposing now. As I heard earlier this evening, this plan still has to go through the rest of the review steps, including land development plans. I know Ken had asked that of a prior applicant, and this plan does involve a land development, even if we were to secure relief from this body this evening. And the plans have been prepared and have been submitted, and the relief that I'm going to talk about are the ones that have been highlighted by your engineer as part of that initial plan review. So what's being sought tonight are 3 separate items of relief. One is for an increase in impervious coverage from the allowable 65% to 74%. The other is to modify the amount of woodland disturbance or tree disturbance to increase it from 50 to 78%. And lastly, relief so as to permit 88 parking spaces in lieu of the 220 spaces that would otherwise be required. It's the parking spaces, as I just indicated, we only have 60 new employees that are going to be occupying the space. The ordinance has an option that says you got to provide the greater of 2 numbers. The greater of those 2 numbers is the 223. And for us, that's just entirely too much impervious that's unnecessary. We have a really good sense of how we're constructing this building and what's going to be occupiable in it. And we know that's the maximum number of employees that we're going to need. So we're very comfortable that that is the scope of the relief we need. The rest of it's been highly technical and detailed in terms of the design of the building, the number of bays, and it is what we think is the minimum we need in order to maintain this type of facility here. We have struggled for a while to figure out what we can do to stay where we are. That is the critical part for us, is that we can create a campus environment for what we do and where we do it, and for the employees that we have. So it's important to us that we stay close to where we are, and we obviously want to stay in Bristol Township, where over 30% of our employees presently reside. So that's the summary of the application. It is something that is a feel-good story. We think it's really a opportunity for all of us to continue to maintain a true manufacturing facility and a huge presence in the township, in Bristol Township. So that's what we want to do, and that's why the relief that we seek is part of tonight's application. Chirac, do you want to, I guess we should have you sworn quickly by Cindy, if you would, please, Cindy?
Yes. Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Now, Chirac, you are a licensed professional civil engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, correct?
That's right.
And for how long have you been licensed?
About 18 years.
And you are one of the principals of Arna Engineering, which is the engineering firm that prepared the plans that are part of tonight's application, right?
That's correct.
All right. And you've heard me summarize the essence of the application, have you not?
Yes, I did.
All right. Is there anything that I omitted or anything else you'd like to add to supplement that summary that I provided that I would have asked you had we walked through it on a question and answer basis?
No, I think you covered it.
If the board members have any questions, we can certainly, Chirac and I can certainly deal with them, but that's the essence of the application. And happy to answer any other loose ends if you'd like.
Where the proposed warehouse is going, that's all industrial down there, right? There's no residential.
Right.
housing.
And Chirac and I both know this. The only, Jim, the only residential property that's even near this is the Army Recruiting Center. Everything else in that area now that this property's been rezoned is PI planned industrial. That's right.
That's correct.
Anybody from the board have any other questions?
I do. So this property is going on the old Sunbury Farm. Is that where that's going to be?
Yes.
It used to be the historic Sunbury Farm that they plowed down.
Years ago.
Yes, that's a
There was-
shame. That dated back to the 1700s, and that was historic, and that's a shame. So now they're going to turn it, they plowed down the building that was historic, one of the only historical buildings that we had in this township, and now they're going to turn it into, you're going to make it into a warehouse, correct?
Not a
So-
warehouse, a window manufacturing facility.
So if you're turning that into a warehouse, where are they going to enter and exit from that warehouse?
Chirac, do you want to share your screen and put the plan up?
Yep. Just let me know if you guys can see it. You can
Yep.
see the screen. Okay. So what I described, the existing facilities right here,
On Crossing
about-
Drive, right.
right along Crossing Drive, exactly. So the proposed facility would take access off of Crossing Drive.
Not out to Newportville Road.
Correct. No access to Newportville.
There's no access at all to Newportville Road.
Nope.
Correct.
Everything is internal to the existing other manufacturing facilities on Crossings Drive, correct?
So then they're going to exit where? Where are they going to exit their trucks, and where are they going to take them? What roads are they going to take them down when they exit?
Well,
Same ones that are going now, but go ahead.
Correct. I'm just going to change my screen to just share the Google Street View or the aerial view, so it might be easier to just, zoom in and out of it. Just bear with me 1 second. You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the existing manufacturing facility. This is the subject site, and that's Crossing Drive.
Mhm.
That's Newportville. And our proposed access would come on here in this corner.
And then where do the trucks go after that?
The trucks leave the facility off Crossing Drive. That's where this entire campus feeds
Right,
off.
and then where do
And then
they,
they can, go ahead, sorry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, and then where do they go after that?
Well, they can feed off of Crossing Drive here. This established campus, it's all interconnected.
No, she's saying Ford
What
Road,
are the main roads that they're going to drive on after they leave the industrial park?
Ford Road or Newportville Road is what she's asking.
Yeah, either Newportville or Ford
Yeah,
Road.
exactly. Or Ford, exactly.
So they're going to be Mack trucks, big trucks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially, yes.
Okay, so my question is, and I don't know who would answer this, whether it be Mr. Fetterman or Mr. Scott. When this industrial park was put in way back, was there some kind of an agreement that they were not supposed to use Newportville Road to exit with Mack trucks? Because I know that way back they were not supposed to be taking these huge trucks down Newportville Road because it would disintegrate the road, and it was also detrimental to that little bridge that's down there that enters Newportville Road. I mean Newportville, that goes up to the corner down there. And all I see is Mack trucks. And I came home 2 nights ago, and there was a truck. It was so big and it was so tall. It got stuck past Ford Road. It hit the wires, it hit the trees, and it was stuck in the middle of the road. And it was sitting there and it couldn't move because it was too big to go down the road. And it was stuck with the wires. It hit the wires, it hit the trees, and there it was. So I'm not understanding. I thought all the trucks are supposed to go down Ford Road and then enter 95 or 413. And I'm not understanding why they're going down Newportville Road where it's residents. It's all residents down that end. Both ends are residents. And they're not equipped to handle these huge trucks.
Well, look, we've got, I have no idea if there's any restrictions, unless it's posted, I can't say. I mean, certainly Mr. Murphy's got, been representing the applicant for quite some time, and there's several facilities within Keystone that have been developed by the Foreign Crossing Group. Excuse me.
There is no restriction in the
And
title
we're
or
having
anything
the,
that I know of.
I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead, Ed, I'm sorry.
I am not aware of any restriction about the use of Newportville Road once vehicles would exit from Crossing Drive. That's never, all the years I've done this, I'm not aware of any such limitation.
And certainly with the land development application, we would have the Pannoni, the township's traffic engineers, look into
Sure. Certainly.
the traffic impact, the
Correct.
traffic impact, yeah.
Yep.
Because these trucks are way too big to go down that road through the residential neighborhood where the kids are out in the streets. And you can't even get over the bridge as it is. And when these trucks are coming down the road, you have to stop because you can't get across the bridge because they take up both sides of the bridge. And that bridge is going to collapse one of these days because these trucks are too heavy to go over that bridge. So that's my concern too, that we've got more trucks now going down this road through the residential neighborhoods. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right, Sue. As Tom said, that'll all be reviewed as part of our land development process, so.
Anything else, Sue?
No, I'm done for the moment.
I have nothing further to offer to the board.
Anybody else from the board like to ask any questions?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Scott, anything to add?
No, sir.
Anybody from the audience would like to speak for or against this project? Okay, at this time, I'm looking to get a motion for or against this project.
I'll put a motion for the project to go forward.
I need a second. I'll second. I'll call the board. Colleen Dunn,
Yes.
Sue Lewis,
She's muted.
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your
Thank you.
patience tonight. Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, The next applicant is Shimon Popoli, 1606 Street Road, Bensalem, PA.
It's actually
Anybody?
Chaman Popley, I think.
Yes, it's Chaman Popley. Brendan Callahan on behalf of Chaman Popley, who's present, and he'll be my only witness this evening if we want to swear him in now.
Good, Cindy.
Mr. Popley, can you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, Brendan Callahan from Begley, Carlin, and Mandio. I represent Mr. Popley. Mr. Fetterman, I pre-submitted the notices for this hearing. Did you receive those?
I did, and they're fine.
Okay. And we posted this property. Again, this is property located at 501 Veterans Highway, while the applicant lives in Bensalem. This is the property located at 501 Veterans Highway. And Mr. Popley is the equitable owner of the property. It's located in the R2 residential district. And the purpose of our application tonight is simple: to ask for a use variance to allow him to operate a retail tobacco shop out of that location. So this property currently features a commercial building and a parking lot. It used to be Stadium Bar and Grill. And Mr. Popley has entered into an agreement of sale to purchase that property and to hopefully keep it its commercial nature. So I have Mr. Popley with me tonight to discuss the matter a bit further. I also have prepared a PowerPoint if we'd like to share my screen so that we can go through these as I question Mr. Popley.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Callahan, you can share the screen, please.
Okay, so Mr. Popley, could you entered into an agreement to purchase this property in March of 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and could you briefly describe what's on the property now?
Right now is empty, is nothing to do anything. And I applied for UNO like a couple months back. And once I apply the UNO,
All right, wait a second. Can you just slow down for a little bit? Did you say you applied for something?
I applied for UNO like a couple of months back.
Thank you.
And then I got
used
the
an occupancy permit, Mr. Popley?
Yes, occupancy permit, yes.
And when you applied for that, you were asked by the township to go get a variance because this is actually in a residential district, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Actually, when I purchased was a commercial. Then I went the township. I say I need to be UNO. They say you apply for the UN application. When I fill the application, then after I get the letter from that the township, that is the zone for the R zone. That's I got rejection letter for them, the first township.
A rejection letter?
Yeah, that's I got the letter from the township. Yeah, the R zone.
So, Mr. Popley, you're asking to. Do you see the site plan on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, does that accurately depict what's on the site now?
I'm sorry?
Does that accurately depict the site as it stands right now?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're asking to put in a commercial tobacco shop, which is going to sell cigars, cigarettes, but also convenience items like soda, lottery tickets, etc., right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, let me ask you a couple questions about that. So, are you going to allow any seating in the facility?
I'm sorry?
Any seating for the public?
No,
Will there be
no seating. No seating.
Okay, and will there be any smoking allowed in that building?
It's not smoking allowed. No. Just grab and go.
So it's strictly a grab and go convenience store, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, and what are your proposed hours of operation?
Planning to 7 in the morning and 7 to 7 p.m. or 7 to 6 p.m. That's the only limited hours.
Okay. Now, formally, this was a Stadium Bar and Grill, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is that substantially the way the building looks right now?
Same thing. Yeah, we're not changing anything. Same exactly.
Okay, so when you say you're not changing anything, you're not changing the footprint of that building on the
No.
exterior in any way, right?
No, that's the same exactly that.
Okay. And you just want to revert this property to continue that commercial use, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, if you were to convert this property into a residential use, would that cause you substantial hardship?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you would have to obviously demolish it, take out the impervious surface there, and regrade and put a new building in, right?
Yes. Yep.
And you couldn't afford to do that, right?
No,
Okay. And then you wouldn't be able to purchase that property, correct?
that's true. Correct. Yes.
Okay. Do you own any other businesses in the township?
I have a two business a gas station, Sunoco, last 15 years. One is Veterans Highway, one is Route 13. One
Okay.
is
So
under
you've been doing business in the township for 15 years,
15 years.
specifically the Sunoco, right?
Sunoco, that's both franchise here.
Okay. And again, you're asking for a use variance to operate the retail facility out of that building, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the board before they make a decision?
No, nothing say anything. No, that's I can say. It was existing. I have to both locations. I never ever had any issue for that. And last 15 years, that's the I like to be bring up another shop and developing more jobs for that couple, like 2-3 people working at that's my shop since they opened after the retail shop.
Is this property already purchased, Mr. Callahan? By Mr. Popoli?
Yeah, this is already almost going to be closing. Supposed to be COVID-19 to take a delay. Maybe next week they're going to be closing. Next few weeks, we already almost done completed. And if it maybe next week, maybe this end of this week or next week, we're in settlement that.
The people you bought this off, did they make you aware that it was R2?
No, actually, I'm not. But when I purchased it as a commercial, that's the. I don't know about that. They are zone.
So, all right, I'm might be getting late, but I'm a little confused here. Like,
Yeah, I am too.
there was already a stadium takeout in there, and that was in there at as R2 also, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, it's R2. I don't know why. It was Skinny Dugan's back in the 80s or the 90s and it was R2.
Okay. All right. All right. Good. So you got any questions?
Yeah, so I don't understand if it was an R2 before, is it still an R2? Wait a minute. It was an R2 before
Yes.
and so he's what? He's in an R1? I can't even, it's late. I'm just missing all this.
Yeah, because it's zoned residential, every time somebody wants to put something there, they're gonna have to get a variance
Yeah.
until council changes it.
So you're saying you want a tobacco shop, and the same thing you're saying you're going to be selling all these other things in the store. What is it? Is it a retail store? Is it a
Not
tobacco shop?
retail store like soda, candy, cheap cigarette.
It
Retail
says
shop.
here tobacco shop.
I'm sorry.
It says here retail tobacco
Yeah,
shop.
tobacco
That's what I'm
shop.
asking.
Tobacco with the cigarette soda. Tobacco. Not only tobacco, not or retail. That's.
Are you going to be making food here, selling food, or
No,
there's a
I'm not.
kitchen there? That's why I'm asking.
No, I'm not doing anything. That's if I used to have a 6-pack to go there. That's the reason they require a kitchen. But I'm not selling 6-pack there. No more liquor there.
So
I'm just
you're-
opening only 7 in the morning and 6 p.m.
So-
I close it.
Are you not selling liquor?
No, no,
or
I'm not selling.
alcohol?
No alcohol, no more.
So this isn't a tobacco shop then? This is a convenience store?
Convenience store. Yes, that's the convenience store. Yeah.
Jim, anything? Because I'm, a little- yeah.
No.
Do you, I was gonna say, do you agree if the board were to approve it, that it will be a convenience store, not solely a tobacco shop?
Now this is like a retail shop. There's going to be cigar, soda, candy. I have already couple more shop, not in the township, in Benson Township. Same thing is going to be here opening.
So you're not gonna be just selling strictly tobacco?
No, not the microcycling. No, that's no, that's the mix use. That's all they mix that going to be.
You're gonna be selling lottery tickets?
Yeah, lottery ticket. That's definitely. I don't want to lying to you. There's going to be lottery ticket.
Is there going to be parking for this store?
We have the parking that, yes.
I'm sorry, what was the answer?
Yeah, we do have parking this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Scott, what's your opinion? Here,
I don't know why it's not zoned commercial. And that's a statement, not an opinion, but it's, I
okay,
can't even imagine why it's zoned residential. It's been
Okay.
commercial for longer than I've been alive.
okay.
All right, any other questions from the board?
Okay. Anybody for or against?
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this thing.
Yeah,
Okay, anybody in the audience that's for or against this project would like to come up and speak? All right. So how does this get changed, Mr. Scott? You said through council? Is that an easy process or is it?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen from Mr. Murphy's application a short while ago that applicants can ask for zoning map amendments. Council can also initiate their own zoning map amendments when you see places like this that are zoned I can't even imagine why it's not. If this was in a commercial district, this would have been done in December or whenever he applied for the permit. The zoning district doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But this property is by no means unique in that regard. There's a lot of them, especially along the highways, but if it was zone commercial, it would be approved in 2 seconds. But it's not. That's reality. And because it's a retail shop and not a bar, it's a change that is too dissimilar to the previous use that requires additional relief. Thank you.
So, Mr.
and is
Callahan,
anybody going to be living here at all? Anywhere on the property?
No.
Mr. Callahan, where do you see the hardship here? Brandon? Hello? Brandon?
Oh,
Brandon?
Brandon? You there?
Did he leave?
I don't know.
No, better not have.
good Lord.
What happened to Brandon?
I don't even.
He
see
must
it.
be muted. He's got to be muted somehow.
I already figured out how to share the screen. This has been a huge victory. And even though Dana already left,
didn't leave.
Brenda's coming back on right now. He's trying to connect.
Sorry, my computer just randomly shut off. I sincerely apologize for that. It's plugged in. I don't know what happened, so I apologize. Nothing I can do about it. I was trying to get back in.
All right. So what I was asking is, where do you see the hardship here?
So the hardship is in that the question is it's not created by Mr. Popley, obviously, and he has an inability to change this back to residential. If you look at the outline of the building, which I had on my slide, the interior of the building, and it's been for a very long time commercial, and therefore to convert it back, the hardship would be extreme, and it's monetary, and it's again related to the fact that there's a ton of impervious there for parking, and it's where it is, and
Doesn't he have the option not to buy this property?
Right now, he's entered into an agreement of sale, and I'll let Mr. Popley speak to that. But Mr. Popley, do you have the option to back out of this agreement at this time?
No, actually, I can back out. That actually, I have a contract. I have a contract with that. They're going to be settlement supposed to be last week. Some reason is that salary. He's out of state. He's in Florida. That's the reason. Is now it's going to be hopefully at this week or next week going to be.
See, here's my concern here. He doesn't even own the property yet, and he wants us to change everything on this property. And if he backs or something happens and he doesn't own this property, whoever the other owner is, it's going to be changed for the other owner. And I don't even understand how we can do that.
Oh, if for some reason is, I have the option. If not buy the property, then have a lease. I have keep the lease, sign the lease agreement. That's the option. Make a deal. If not, some reasons not settlement, I have to lease the property.
So what I would say is, as equitable owner, he has standing to bring this application. My understanding is that the prior owner is the one who operated Stadium Bar and Grill, and they had the commercial occupancy use there. So I don't know that if for some reason this agreement fell through, there would be a detrimental effect on the board because I think it could still be used by that owner as commercial property. But I can ask Mr. Popley. Mr. Popley, is your understanding that you're buying it from the people who operated Stadium Bar and Grill at that location?
Yes.
Okay, so it's my understanding, and I would ask Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, did those people have an occupancy and an ability to use that for a commercial establishment?
I don't have anything in front of me for that, but I would imagine so.
So I don't think that while I seriously understand the concern, I don't think if this agreement fell through, the next person that would then come before the board would obviously, when they applied for their permit, have to ask for the same sort of relief.
You're not asking the board to change the zoning classification.
No, not at all. We're just asking for a use variance to be allowed to place this in that district, to operate this building in that district. Not asking to change the zoning classification of that property in any way. We're asking for a variance related to Mr. Popley.
And do you know when the last time the property was residential in nature?
I don't. I could ask Mr. Popley, but when I looked on Google Map, I know that was from, I think, 2008, and that's where that photograph was from. Unfortunately, I do not have the deed. That being said, I could say when the purchaser, I know that the Goldings purchased the property on the deed. It looks like in 2019. So I can't say for sure. But that's a transfer between themselves.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, Mr. Scott, I think he can't testify, but I think he provided the board with some indication of how long it's been commercial.
And I apologize if I missed that due to me being signed off, but I would think that the board would be able to take judicial notice of Mr. Scott's knowledge on that issue.
I just wanted to point out that on the agreement to sell, it does say here that Mr. Popley, in my opinion, would believe that he was buying a commercial property because it says commercial property known as, and that's on the the first page there for that.
Right, and Mr. Popley will testify that it's his understanding that he was entering into an agreement for a commercial property, correct, Mr. Popley?
Yes.
And everything to a buyer would indicate that, considering the fact that there's literally a restaurant with a sign there and the sales agreement there. Now, I understand that that's not a problem that this board created, but it's also not an issue that Mr. Popley created. So I understand it's buyer beware type of issue, but there was definitely, I'll say lightly, some confusion in that area for Mr. Popley when he purchased the property and what he thought he was getting.
But if we don't give him relief, then what?
Well, according to Mr. Popley, he'd be stuck purchasing the property, so we'd have to go through, I guess as his attorney, I would recommend that we sue the property owner, which is not something we would want to do. But also, and I think most importantly in the eyes of the township, we're going to have a property sitting vacant there for a while, at least why this would be, and I'm not trying to make an issue there, but it could be tied up in litigation, and the use of this property and ownership of that property may become a real issue. And again, obviously not a problem that the township caused, but I think my client's really just asking to maintain a status quo of what was there. It was being used commercially. I understand it's in a residential district, but the property was, and up until, these owners, was being used on a commercial basis.
And if I can say something as a resident of Bristol Township, this is Cindy Murphy at 317 Dogwood Drive. I've been a resident here for as long as I can remember, and I went to school at Delhas, graduated in '82. I hate to say that out loud, but as long as I remember, I have to agree with Tom, that place has always been some type of commercial property. Some type of business has been running out of it. So just my 2 cents on that as a resident.
I just, my thing is setting a precedent as the zoning board. And this comes up a lot. And I think it should be addressed, higher up than us as far as, changing the zoning map, I guess. I don't know if that's possible or what, but.
We're not, just for your own edification, we're not changing the zoning map, but.
No, but I'm saying in general.
Yeah, that would be obviously a resolution here, right? Because if the zoning map were commercial, I don't know if you saw my image, but I went up and down that place. I happen to be familiar with where it's located as well. I don't know that it would be, the best location for a residential area anyway. It's right on Veterans Highway, and it does serve well for a retail establishment, in my opinion. That being said, obviously, we wouldn't have the issue of asking for a zoning variance for use if it was zoned commercial, but unfortunately, it's not.
All right. Anybody else from the audience like to speak on this project for or against it? All right, then I'm going to ask the board for a motion to for or against this project. It's against my better judgment, but I'm going to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, I'm going to call the board. Colleen Dunn,
Yep.
Sue Lewis,
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes. Thank
Jim,
you.
I'm sorry, can we make the suggestion that Mr. Popley go to the board and get that zoned permanently after?
I was thinking.
I'm not
that.
sure.
I don't know if that's up to him at this point. Is that something that could happen, Ken or Tom?
I would defer that to Brendan. He's his counsel. I think you can always ask for a property to be rezoned. There's nothing that restricts that.
So we could ask.
I think it would be in the best interest for Mr. Popley, just in case he decides to, sell. So then therefore, the township is at, benefits because it is already commercial. It's been commercially used.
So Mr. Popley and Brendan, Mr. Callahan, you understand that this approval means nothing to a subsequent buyer. So every time this property changes hands, if the district doesn't get zoned commercial, you're gonna have to come back to the zoning board. And that does affect the value of it because it's not freely transferable for the use that's really proper for the property. So we want to make you aware of that, so you don't think that this necessarily applies to any other transfer.
And we
you're
understand
still-
that, and I would explain to my client that obviously the value on this property would be, especially after, understanding the position of the board, be enhanced by securing the change in zoning. And that's something him and I can discuss at length in the process to do that. It's something my office does do. But that being said, that wasn't what we were asking for today. But Mr. Popley does understand that, the next buyer may enter into a contingent sale agreement with him and they may come and get denied. So we understand the risk there, but his hope is to really keep a long-standing, frankly, tradition there of running commercial property. He's done successfully in Bristol Township, and he wants to continue to do that. So,
Okay, just so it's noted and your client understands what the approval means.
understood,
doesn't mean.
and I will explain that to him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, so,
It's 10 o'clock.
Woohoo.
We're going to 11?
no, we're not going to 11.
No.
No, absolutely not.
Can I weigh in for a minute? We appreciate the patience you've shown so far this evening. Again, William Kerr here. There are a lot of moving parts with this project to pull this whole thing together. One of the major impediments we have is that this PHFA application deadline happens only once a year. So if we miss the March 5th deadline for this application, we have to wait till March 4th of 2022.
Okay.
So having said that, and recognizing this is a complicated application that you've all seen for the first time tonight, you have 2 new board members, is it at all possible that we could continue this to Monday, March the 1st, which would be 1 week prior to your normal meeting? That would give us all time to go back and pull this all together. We can submit the full package. All the board members then could see could have a paper copy of the packet in front of them on March the 1st, if we could.
Well, actually, we would like that in advance. That should, in my opinion, given the complexity of this, that should have been done in preparation for this hearing.
Okay, well,
It's a lot to ask a board to start marking exhibits when you're asking for 27 variances. It's that, and the only way, again, I imagine the board can convene the meeting, but I can't see how they could do it and have other hearings. So I think there'd have to be a decision that month's meeting would be dedicated to this approval, because it wouldn't be fair to the other applicants in Bristol Township to force them to come a week earlier when it's public notice that we hold our meetings the second Monday of every month, and you're asking us to do something special. Again, I say I can appreciate the fact that you're a year out. We don't want to see that happen. Maybe you could ask the authority to allow you to submit a month later. I don't know, but to me, I would think the only way that would make sense is if you would be the only applicant on that night and the board's willing to do it.
yeah, and I agree with virtually everything you said there, except that PHFA will not extend their deadline. It's a hard deadline. There's dozens of applications to come in. And I agree that it would make the most sense to have this as the only application. I've been involved in a number of other municipalities who do hold special hearings where they have complicated applications like this. So
Yeah, I don't
asking
disagree. It's within the board's discretion
Yeah, okay.
to do so. I just don't think it's necessarily fair to other applicants that we force them to come at a time when they're not normally scheduled. So I'd rather give them more time than less time. That's
Oh, yeah.
my,
No,
my thinking.
yeah, I totally agree. This would be a special, it wouldn't be rescheduling the March hearing. It would be just a special hearing for us, and we would, hopefully be able to get it done within an hour or so. And it would be a short night for everyone, and then you could go to your regular meeting the following week. So if it's at all possible, my client, all of us would very much appreciate that.
Well, I'm willing to do whatever it takes that we need if for some reason this passes, because I don't want to see them lose something if they would need to get it by that date. I don't know about anybody else, so it's up to everybody else what you want to do.
Well,
Yeah,
someone make a
appreciate it.
motion, someone make a motion about having a special meeting the first Monday in March. If you want to do that.
I can do it anytime, so just let me
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and I would also say that council, you need to provide indexed exhibits to the zoning board and myself for that matter, like in the next 7 days. So we're not at the last minute trying to figure out what you're really trying to do. I think the board gets the gist of it, but in fairness, there's 27 variances and they may want to take some time to search every one of them down. I had asked your witness for you to have your witness explain which ones affect neighboring properties. That didn't happen. So I think the board has to make a considered decision here, and we didn't have the time to really do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, Mr. Fetterman, I agree with you on everything, and we will, the township actually did get our exhibit packet today, but I will make sure that we resubmit and that everyone has that in plenty of time so that on March 1st, everyone hopefully has a paper copy in front of them, because quite frankly, I hate looking at electronic copies of things, and I perfectly understand that having paper copies in front of you is the preferred alternative. Okay.
Certainly makes it easier to follow along.
Yep, absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I know it sounds a little crazy, but I do have some serious issues with safety. And I was wondering if we could get I guess the applicant could get a report from the fire marshal. I do not believe that the township has a 4-story building. And if we do have the resources or not to, assist if need be. Also from the rescue squad, due to the fact that it is going to be 56 units of elderly people who I don't know if the township has those resources.
That's completely appropriate, because one of the major things the board has to consider is the health and welfare, not only of the community, but the residents that are going to actually be there.
Okay,
so-
I just, I'm really red in the face because I'm new, obviously I'm new, but I do have a lot of questions, but the safety and the welfare of just not those residents, but the residents, in the rest of the township, due to the fact that they could be pooling most of our resources, when I know for a fact that we don't have those resources to really spare at this moment. One question I have is, does the fire truck have a ladder that goes up 4 stories? Because we do not have a 4-story building in the township as of right now.
Well, to the applicant, I would say the zoning board is telling you their concerns about health and welfare of the community, which is certainly a legitimate area for the board to delve into.
I mean, even can the fire marshal even show up for the meeting? I don't even know.
It wouldn't be the
No.
meeting. He
No.
could just write a note or something. And my concern also is the church is really close to the new building. What if there's a fire at that back apartment? What if somebody can't get out, or an emergency situation where somebody gets caught somewhere and they have to get in through the back way of the building? So there are some serious concerns with that on my end.
Those are actually helpful. We
Mr.
will
Chairman,
prepare.
look, we've had the sketch plan went to council, I think, twice. Once with 2 parking spaces. The next one had significantly more parking spaces. So the fire marshal has reviewed it. I will see if he's got any generated comments
Okay.
with regards to the layout. He normally looks at traffic circulation and for the equipment and things like that. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to anybody about the capacity to deal with buildings of that size. But I don't know if he'd necessarily go to the zoning hearing board to do it. But I'll talk to him tomorrow about it.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Tom, I was just
I mean, he
asking
loves
for a
talking about
letter.
it, don't get me wrong.
All right,
Cindy Murphy can agree with that, I think.
so, Mr. Scott, your feeling on the March 1st thing, do you have any idea what's on the agenda for March? I'm sure that's a hard question to answer, I know, but,
I'm sorry, we're saying March 1st.
well, I mean, the
Right.
first Monday of March, I'm
All
sorry.
right.
So
I
that's.
think we have one other zoning hearing board application for a commercial property. I think it's a setback for an existing commercial property.
All right. So what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, so that'd be 2 Mondays in a row. We'll just take care of the one applicant, the one we're doing tonight on the first Monday in March, which is March 1st. And then we'll have to, then our next meeting, our original meeting will be the 8th. So do we have to advertise for this March 1st meeting, Mr. Scott?
It sounds like a question for Mr. Fetterman, quite frankly.
Ken, can you answer that question for me?
I can, as soon as I get my mute off. No, you don't. It's a continuance. It's a continuance to an odd date, but anybody that was interested in being in the public tonight showed up, so they would have notice of it. I don't see, no, you don't have to advertise. You're allowed to have a special meeting to continue. And that's the advice I'm going to render.
Sue, your feelings?
I'm fine with it.
Colleen?
I'm fine, but I do have one more question. I'm so sorry. I would hate, do we get the copies of the letters of what the people are opposing? I'm not sure. Again, this is my first meeting, so I do have questions. But I did see the lady was on the, I believe her name was Megan. She was opposing. I was wondering if we find out what they're opposing, like why they're opposing before the next meeting?
Well, she would have to come back for the next meeting.
Yeah.
and
Oh, okay, she's got to do it that way. All
Yeah,
right.
public, yeah.
For public comment, she would have to come back the next
Okay.
meeting. And
Again,
So-
sorry.
I
I'm new,
can't
so
see
have
how, I
questions.
can't see how it hurts to notify her. Just in the interest of fairness here.
I'm still here. I'm still here. We will be on that meeting.
Okay, great. Glad you're still here.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that's what we'll do. We're gonna make a motion for a continuance for this applicant, March 1st at 7 o'clock. Is that all right with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion for a continuance.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. This is Tom
Yeah.
Scott.
yeah, Tom.
Tom Scott, Bristol Township. So this is this is just for this applicant, right?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll call the board. Sue Lewis,
Yes.
Jim McMahon, yes. Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, thank you. We very much appreciate that. We recognize it creates a inconvenience for everyone, but we very much appreciate that. And we'll be ready to go on at 7 o'clock on the 1st.
All right, need a motion to adjourn?
And just to be clear, you're going to get us all
Yes,
index packets in the next
Yep.
7 days, right?
Yep. absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Nice have it.
I can't vote. I take it back.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank
see ya.
you.
Bye.
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 Good night, everybody.